Awesome. So this is the coaching call that we're going to do once a month on Wednesday afternoon at 12:30 Central Standard Time. And I am super thankful that you have come to join us. Clearly, you care about your health, you're excited about making good changes, and you obviously have a struggle with something. So this call is all about creating a community, a place for us to come together, answer questions, and we're going to open it up with like a nutrition piece and then a little bit around mindset. And then the last part, however much time we have, is all devoted to each one of you. You can come and ask questions. We can talk product specifics. Just note, like, we're in a group environment, but at that point is when I will probably stop the recording, and then it can just be us in this room and it wouldn't go out to anyone. How does that sound to everybody?
Yeah, sounds good.
Good. And Christina, you just hopped on. Welcome. Jody, is she one of your customers?
Yes, she is. She's on the Happy Hormone Pack.
Fantastic. Well, welcome. We're glad you're here. This is awesome. I always love having a quaint group, and that's what these coaching calls are for, is more one-on-one help. So Jody, do you want to kick us off with our 4 pillars?
Yes. So we're going to talk today about our 4 pillars, and my first one is about hydration. So when we talked about these coaching calls, we want you to be able to get as big a benefit from your product so that you feel as good as we do. But there's some lifestyle things that we have really implicated, and we call them the 4 pillars. And then as we go on through our coaching calls, we're going to get deeper into those and some techniques of how, like, helping you with cortisol. So we just thought we'd do it the basics today. So the basics really is hydration. We hear it all the time about hydration. And one of the biggest questions is, like, how much should I be drinking? Why should I be drinking all this water? And what counts as water or hydration for our body as we're drinking it? And so hydration, first of all, plain water counts, mineral water counts, spring water, purified water, plain water counts. Beverages like as herbal teas, fruit infused water, even milk can count towards your water intake, and coconut water are all really great for hydration. But then there are some other things that we can consider that will help us stay hydrated. Fruits and vegetables. There's certain fruits that are really high in water that will keep that there. Also soups and broths. So if we are drinking a broth, that can count as some of your intake of hydration. And then, of course, there are other foods that contain water and stuff. You just have to keep in mind, if it's a processed food or something like that, then that may dehydrate you versus hydration with you. So how much should we drink? What's good for us? And we always hear, like, drink half your body weight. Well, that is a good rule of thumb. But if you're exercising, you have to listen to your body. So if some indicators is that you feel thirsty all the time, or your body is just, you feel some exhaustion or some fatigue, that could be a dehydration. Or if you have any kind of health issues, like kidney stones and things like that, urinary tract infections, you want to make sure you're hydrating even more. And you can monitor it by the color of your urine sometimes too. So if it becomes brownish, you're getting really dehydrated. You want to keep that a light color most of the time, because sometimes when we take our supplements, it does change the color, but we want to keep it at a light color most of the time. So there's a really good rule of thumb. Sometimes you can do 16 ounce or between 8 and 16 ounces every hour that you're awake, and that will keep you hydrated all day long. Gulping your water a whole bunch at once, it's actually better to have little sips throughout the day versus gulping a whole big 16 ounces at once. And so that's a little bit of hydration. Why do we want this? First of all, it will help us with fatigue. It helps take the toxins out of our body. We hear something called estrogen dominant sometimes, and those are toxins that have been built in and been stuck in our body. And we need the water to flush all of that out of our body. So that's just a little bit of hydration. If anybody has any questions on that.
Okay, I love that. I did not know about the soup being another source of hydration.
Yeah,
Like a
if it's a big
broth soup.
broth soups, yeah, will do good.
Yeah, I love hot liquids in a cup. Like it's like my favorite thing in the whole world. And now I'm like, okay, now I can stay hydrated by just drinking like chicken broth or okay, bone broth, I'm not gonna lie, is a bit of a stretch, but can drink the other broths. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about sleep because sleep is probably our most underrated form of recovery because we can survive with less sleep, but we're not optimal with poor sleeping habits. And so I'm going to talk about the three phases of sleep. And that way we understand like where our nutrition gap is and how we can help fill that. So if we lay down in bed and we are immediately falling asleep, like you've heard the phrase, I fall asleep before I hit the pillow. That's actually a sign of exhaustion. And that's a bad thing. We want to lay in bed for 10 to 15 minutes, maybe practice gratitude, go over our day, cut cords, whatever your habit is, because we want to make sure that we're not burning ourselves out all day long, that we don't naturally fall asleep. But if you are laying in bed and you can't fall asleep, you're there for 30, 40 minutes, that's actually a GABA issue, which is a neurotransmitter in our stomach that is not being produced enough. The second phase is if you are waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning. And that's a sign that your cortisol is spiking and it's messing up your blood sugar and you're getting agitated while you sleep and you're waking up. And so that lack of, or that excess of cortisol, that's when our cortisol is supposed to be dipping is through the night while we sleep. And when we wake up in the middle of the night and we can't fall back asleep, we're kind of like this wired but tired. It means our cortisol level is spiking. And both of you are on the happy hormone pack and it will actually bring those levels down, which is so good because we want to be able to sleep through the night and get quality sleep, just not a lot of sleep, but like really good quality sleep. And if you happen to wake up in the morning and maybe you have slept through the night, but you still are exhausted, that's a melatonin issue. And that's one supplement that we should never, or that's one thing we should never supplement for. Melatonin is a natural hormone in our body. And when we supplement it, our body recognizes that that's a synthetic, but it also recognizes that it's melatonin. And so our body will naturally decrease the production of something that we are supplementing for, that the body actually, it wants to produce it on its own. So we can give the body nutritional supplements like in foods and in herbs and spices and things like that to boost its natural production. But we don't want to take a supplement that hinders our natural circadian rhythm. Okay, so what do we do if our sleep is all messed up? So one of the best practices we can do is in the morning when the sun is shining. Well, it's not shining in Texas right now, but if it were, take your cup of coffee, take your whatever it is you enjoy in the morning, your juice, and go stand in the sun and let the sun, the warmth and the rays just hit you. You can go out. I stand in my garage in my bathrobe. Sometimes I'll put the tailgate down on my husband's pickup and I'll just sit there and let the sun, I just soak up the sun. It helps reset the circadian rhythm. And then of course at night, shutting off TV, phones, anything with a blue screen, or that emits the blue light, taking care of those 30 minutes before bedtime and creating a bedtime ritual or habit where you brush your teeth, or maybe you do a mask, or you sit in bed and read for 30 minutes. You do gratitude. I've practiced this where you cut cords of like some of the negative things that happen through the day or the things you want to leave in today and not carry over tomorrow. Like I imagine cutting cords and letting go of the negative and focusing on positive and praise and gratitude. Those are things that help you begin to create a really great sleep cycle. But if you are struggling with sleep beyond that, hopefully after a time being of being on especially Mood Plus, because it lowers cortisol, you'll notice that your sleep begins to improve. So that's sleep.
Love it. I know, but right before I go to sleep too, I try and do some deep breathing. And
That's a good,
sometimes you can do some having is just something that balances you, gets your circadian rhythm going and your vagus nerve calming. And so you can do some havening on your arms too to relax you. So my next one is about movement. This is always an interesting subject. When you're going through perimenopause, menopause, postmenopausal, or you're having trouble losing weight, movement is always important throughout the day. I always tell everybody, of course, what works for you is good, but sometimes we're doing a lot of exercise that is not good for our body, that actually increases our cortisol levels, our stress levels. And I was doing that. I was doing a boot camp every morning, and then I was exhausted the rest of the day. That's like I would do that, and then I couldn't do anything else the rest of the day. And so there's some tips that you need to take notice when you're doing movement. Do I still feel good the rest of the day to continue on walking, or I could go on another little walk during the day, or it doesn't slow me down with my activities? It should actually give you more energy than exhausting you. So during this time, take notice of that. If you do a boot camp and you still have loads of energy afterwards, go for it, girlfriend. If not, slow it down to walking, slow it down to weightlifting, slow it down to, even yoga or even deep breathing. But some kind of movement every single day is really important. And weight-bearing exercises during this time is also important because we're starting to lose our muscle mass. And this is rapid. The older we get, our muscle mass just starts to decline. And what that does is our body stops burning as many calories as we normally burn. So if we don't have as much muscle mass, then we're burning less calories, then our stress level goes up because we're trying to exercise more to get that extra weight off maybe. And that just makes that vicious circle. And so with that cortisol too. So listen to your body. Maybe not, if HIIT exercises or massive movement is something that benefits you, you can do that checklist, keep going. If not, then dial it back a bit. Learn how to take a nice walk, like I said, and do some of those weight-bearing exercise. But movement is really important. Even if you were to take 6 10-minute walks a day, it benefits you just as much as walking an hour at one time. So some people tell me, I just don't have time to walk an hour every single day. And I say, do you have 10 minutes here and there? So if you can do 3 10-minute walks, it will benefit you just as much. One of the best habits that you can get in a habit of, which helps keep your glucose levels down, is walking 20 minutes after each meal if you can. 10 minutes if you can, and it really helps lower that cortisol level. And how it spikes for digestion, helps with your digestion and stuff like that. So movement is very important on a daily basis.
okay, that's awesome. I love that tip. And I always do feel better if I walk after I eat, even if it's a little bit. Smart.
Definitely.
So the last one we have for our pillars today is protein. And we all talk about protein and that it's supposed to be the center of our diet. First, we're going to talk about how much protein you need. And typically, we're going to go by meals. So if you eat 3 meals a day, we should be consuming approximately 30 grams of protein at each meal. So how much is 30 grams of protein? If you hold your hand out like this, and you were to measure the big part of your hand, the palm, a serving size can be approximately 30 grams, depending on what it is. So like your animal proteins might be higher in protein than maybe plants. So you might have to consume more plant proteins. So then this wouldn't be the exact measurement. And Jody does a great job of teaching, listen to your body. And with protein, we really have to be in tune of how our body is handling the protein. So if you enjoy plant-based proteins, and there's a lot of them, continue to enjoy those and then take note, how is your body reacting to those proteins? Do you feel bloated? Do you feel sick or gassy? Or does that protein give you energy and satiate you throughout the rest of the day? Same way with animal proteins. If you have an allergen to eggs and you notice that you feel XYZ after you consume eggs, that although that is a great source of protein, if it doesn't serve your body well, then you're left feeling lethargic or ill, and we don't want that. So as we age, it's more important than ever to become in tune to how we are feeling. The next question often comes is, can I consume too much protein? It is highly unlikely that we can consume too much protein. You can do it, but it would be eating protein literally in your window of whenever you eat, whether you eat from 6 to 6 or 7, whatever your window is of eating. You would almost have to be consuming protein around the clock, because even though it may say 12 grams of protein, not all of that, like that full serving of grams, may not be absorbed into your body. So some great sources of protein, like quick and easy snacks between your meals, because meals I think are always the easy part. Having a protein snack sometimes during the day requires a little bit more planning. But like beef sticks are great. Shakes are super simple. If you can find a clean protein bar without seed oils, that's always a great one. That's something that I struggle with, is protein bars that are good and nutritious but don't contain a lot of oils. So I don't have that recommendation. But either shake, whether it's a plant-based shake, high protein, or a whey shake, high protein, they're great sources of protein. And you just pay attention to which one your body prefers more. I often go on taste, and I realize that I need to be very careful of which one makes me feel good. So protein is great, because if you're consuming the protein that does not inflame your body, then you are satiated longer, which means your cravings can go down. Your appetite is more controlled because you feel full. But anytime you have this bloated feeling after you consume protein, try taking that protein out and replacing it with a different one and see if your body enjoys that more. Does that make sense? Okay, and literally we don't have to worry about consuming too much at our age. Typically, we're not hungry enough to consume, it's like 160 grams of protein a day. That's a lot of protein. It's like almost 4 ribeyes, big steaks. It's a lot. So we're good. Yeah, she's like, nope. So that's a lot of protein. Chances are we're going to fall well under that curve. Okay, so we gave you a lot of pillars. We gave you 4 pillars: hydration, sleep, movement, and protein. When we learn about our nutrition, we can be thrown at so much that we go all in, and we're going to tackle all 4, and we're going to do them exceptional. And then the one afternoon where we mess it up, we immediately feel like, well, we're off track and we've screwed it up. So our goal is to teach you to do the one thing really well. And when that one thing has become a habit, then we can tackle the next thing. So for example, when I started this, my one thing was hydration, and I literally picked the easy thing. Like, I didn't want to change my food and I didn't want to change my exercise, but I thought I can drink more liquids. So I picked the easy thing. Now I don't even think about hydration because it's become a habit. After hydration, I made sure that I was getting enough protein, because as we age, that's so important for our muscle and our bone mass. So they say if you chase 2 rabbits, you will never catch either one. So we have to get really good at chasing one rabbit and doing it well. And once we've caught it, it's ours. The habit is established. It's so much harder to break a habit than to establish a new one, or it's so much harder to establish a new one than break an old habit. Wait, did I say that right the first time? Pretty sure I said that right the first time, but I'm assuming you get my drift. Make something a habit before starting another thing. Otherwise, we will feel restricted and frustrated and possibly even overwhelmed, and all that's going to raise our cortisol levels, holding on to our fat, and just making things frustrating for us, also increasing our anxiety. So do you have anything to add to that, Jody?
Oh, I know that that's great. And listening to my body literally like just changed my whole world because when I listened to what everybody was telling me I was supposed to have and what I was supposed to eat, I kind of felt discouraged because I felt so bad on it. And so when I finally was like, you know what, I'm going to figure out like what works best, what's my body saying. And that once again is that checklist. Like, am I sleeping okay? Am I not bloated? Am I digestion? Am I going to the bathroom okay? And when all those checklists were done, then I knew I was on the right track of feeling better. So absolutely listen to your body.
Yeah, a great story about Jody and I personally is we we like run things together. So our nutrition, our health, our exercise, we kind of keep in check with each other, like what are you doing and what's working for you at this time? And it's funny because what was working for me and I just was banging it out. She was following the same program and she's just like, I'm sicker than a dog. Like I feel terrible and this isn't working. And I'm like, how's it not working? And immediately we could go into something's wrong with me. I'm not cut out for this or whatever. And she did exactly what she did. She's like, I'm just going to listen to my body and figure it out. And she inspired me to start really taking note of the healthy foods that I was consuming that was actually inflaming my body. And healthy foods can inflame our bodies because they weren't made for us. We're so individual that one plan does not fit all. So whether we get easily overwhelmed or radically overestimate what we can do, tackle the one thing that you're going to work on between now and next month, or maybe now and next week. The joy is you get to set the time frame. And then we are here to support you through that. Maybe you establish a really great sleeping pattern. You're like, check, now I'm moving on to the next thing. You can reach out to Jody because you have her text and just say, hey, I'm nailing 7 to 8 hours of sleep consistently and I feel better. I'm on to movement or I'm on to hydration. Not overwhelming, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so we know some of you have started product, some of you have not started product, right? Do you have questions? Because we want to use the rest of this time, however long you need to be on, to answer questions and help you get started.
I think were you going to stop the recording or you want to leave it going?
I am going to stop the recording. I appreciate you so much. And Christina, you can unmic because I think you were talking, but you're all mic'd up.